I bought the house on Birch Lane because the price was low and the lawn looked easy. The inspector said the basement took water in heavy rain. He said the sump pump worked fine. He said the neighborhood drained toward the creek and not to worry. The first night I slept there, I woke to a sound like someone drinking through a straw. It came from the vent near the floor. The real estate flyer showed bright rooms and a tidy kitchen. It did not show the basement. The door to the basement had a child safety lock even though no child lived there. When I opened it, cool air moved up the stairs, the kind that smells like coins and damp paper. The light switch hummed. The bulb flickered once and stayed steady. The concrete floor reflected a thin shine, as if it remembered water. Birch Lane sits between two wider streets. The houses look the same from a distance. Fresh paint, new mailboxes, a dog that barks at the same time each day. My house had a new water heater and a newer dehumidifier. The previous owner left a binder of appliance manuals and a slim notebook with pencil notes. Most lines said the same thing: check pump, mop corner, bleach wall, then a date and a small check mark. The basement had 3 rooms: a laundry area with a floor drain, a storage room with metal shelves bolted to studs, a back room with a low ceiling and a stack of old tiles. The back room door stuck near the hinge. When it opened, the smell changed to something colder. The floor pitched a little toward that side. A narrow trench cut along the foundation led to the sump well. I listened. The pump clicked, then sighed, then stopped. I told myself to keep the place dry. I bought a second dehumidifier and a stack of towels. I set alarms on my phone to check the well at midnight and at 3. I wrote my own notes in the notebook: check pump, mop corner, bleach wall. I thought routine would keep whatever lived in the house simple. Routine works on most things. It did not work on the water. On the first big storm, the street drains filled fast. Birch leaves stuck to the grates and the curb disappeared under a brown ribbon. The sump pump woke and pushed water in bursts. The discharge line chattered against the rim like teeth. I stood with my hand on the pipe, counting each cycle. When it stopped, a new sound replaced it. A slow draw from somewhere under the slab. It sounded patient. I walked the back room with my flashlight pointed at the floor. A thin film covered the concrete. It looked dry until the light hit it. Then it showed ripples like skin. The trench along the wall held a shallow stream that moved toward the well. Near the corner, the stream split around a dark patch that kept its shape. The patch did not soak in. It pulsed and then relaxed, as if it timed its breath to the pump. I checked the notebook again. A page near the end had different handwriting, not the previous owner, smaller letters. Each line said the same thing: do not stand in the corner when the pump stops. The next page had one sentence at the top: the corner asks questions if you stay long enough. It had no date. The pencil had pressed hard into the paper. The rain slowed after midnight. I sat on the stairs to the basement and listened. The house settled. The dehumidifier droned. The sump pump cut in. The water under the slab drew its steady breath. The corner pulsed once and then held still for a long count. I counted with it without meaning to. When I reached 60, the pump clicked on again and broke the rhythm. I felt relieved, like a person who leaves an awkward conversation. In the morning, the street looked clean. The sun made the lawn bright. I opened the basement window and let outside air move through. The cool smell faded to mild. I turned off the pump breaker to test the backflow valve and turned it back on right away. The pump hummed like a sleeping thing, briefly annoyed. The corner looked dry. I told myself I had imagined the pulsing. I wrote it down anyway. 2 weeks later, the creek overflowed during a storm that lasted a day and a half. The power line flickered. The pump ran every minute. At 3 in the morning, I heard the sound that woke me the first night. The straw in the vent. The draw from under the slab answered in longer pulls. The trench carried moving water that did not come from the walls. It came from the middle of the floor in a thin seam that had not been there before. I rolled the washer aside and pulled up the drain cover. Nothing clogged it. The water moved past the drain without choosing it. The seam in the floor widened a finger width. Clear water shone in the crack. It was not muddy like the street. It smelled clean at first, like a glass left on a table. Then the smell shifted to the metallic air I recognized. The corner pulsed faster. The pump cycle shortened. The dehumidifier flashed a full bucket light though the bucket was empty. The lights went out. I grabbed the hand pump the inspector said I would never need. I jammed the hose into the well and started to work the handle. Water rose anyway. The seam in the slab pulled at the air. The straw sound grew louder. I felt pressure on my ears like when you descend in a plane. The back room door swung toward me, the hinge stuck before. It moved smooth now. Water lapped over my shoes. I kept pumping. The crack widened another fraction. It looked like a line drawn for cutting. Something moved the old tiles stacked near the corner. The stack tipped toward the trench. Each tile slid slow and then fast, like a tray on a slight slope. The top tile fell and hit the floor and broke in 2 and then in 4. The pieces lay in the thin stream without soaking. My phone buzzed and then died. The hand pump handle squeaked and began to bind. I could not tell if the well rose or the house sank. The corner drew a breath and did not let it go. I stepped into the back room to brace the handle against the wall. The floor dipped there more than elsewhere. The water rose to my ankles. Cold, not freezing, the kind that feels like a mouth on skin. The seam in the slab cut straight through the room and ran into the corner. It met the wall and kept going under the foundation. The straw sound came from that line now. The pump switched on, off, then failed with a flat noise. In the quiet after, the corner exhaled. The water did not rush. It chose. It moved in a sheet from the crack toward the trench and left a dry strip where I stood. It wanted me to stand still. It pressed against my ankles and withdrew. Pressed, withdrew, like it tested my balance. From the vent came a whisper of air, then words that were not quite words. I heard the shape of a question. It sounded like my name said slowly, without vowels. The corner pulsed in time with the whisper. I stepped backward until my calves hit the stairs. The water followed one pace, then stopped at the same distance as before. The dry strip held around my feet. I could see dust on the concrete where the water had not touched in a long time. A small coin lay there, a penny so old the date looked rubbed off. I picked it up without thinking, and the dry strip vanished. The water closed over my toes, and the whisper rose into a thin, steady tone. I threw the coin into the well. The tone fell an octave, and the seam in the slab answered. The line shivered and then held. I ran up the stairs, and the child safety lock swung on its hinge and hit the door with a soft knock. The house lights came back in a slow wave. The smoke detector chirped once. I stood in the kitchen with my hands on the sink and listened to the pump cough itself awake. The handle on the hand pump in the basement fell with a hollow clack. I called a plumber at 8. He told me the neighborhood took water and that I had a good system. He said the seam in the slab was a shrink crack and not a threat. He said to add a backup battery and a second pump. He said I would feel better if I could see an extra hose. I bought both and wrote the installation date in the notebook. Check pump, mop corner, bleach wall, add battery, add second pump. The corner did not pulse that day. If you move into a house with a basement that smells like coins, learn the timing of the water. Keep your feet out of the corner when the pump stops. Do not hold metal you find on the dry strip. When the vent asks a question, answer with work. Lift the handle, test the valve, empty the bucket. Routine will not cure the water. It will keep you from giving it a name. I keep the notebook by the basement door. I tape new pages in when the old ones curl. I write what happens at midnight and at 3. I do not write my name. The water under Birch Lane asks for names when heavy rain comes. It pulls, waits, and pulls again. I keep the pumps ready and the towels folded and the lock latched. The house drains toward the creek. The corner waits for weather. Subscribe for more original horror stories.